picture this for a moment. Cars just gliding through our cities, totally silent, and the only thing coming out of the exhaust, pure drinkable water.
Yeah. Or imagine massive ships, airplanes, powered by hydrogen. No carbon footprint.
It really does sound like something from the future, doesn't it? But, well, hydrogen fuel cells are actually making this seem possible. So, welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're really digging into this whole hydrogen fuel cell technology.
Exactly. You hear terms thrown around like green hydrogen, fuel cell vehicles, all that buzz. We want to sort of unpack what it all means.
Right, what it means for us, why it's such a big deal in innovation right now.
Yeah, the goal's pretty straightforward, really. Just give everyone a solid grasp of what these fuel cells are, where they're actually being used.
And the challenges too, right? It's not all smooth sailing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the hurdles that still need jumping.
Okay, so let's start with the basics then. What exactly is a hydrogen fuel cell? Like, in simple terms.
Well, think of it like a really clever box, a device that takes the chemical energy locked inside hydrogen
Okay.
and turns it directly into electricity. It's kind of like a mini power plant, but super clean.
How does it do that? What's the process inside?
It's quite neat, actually. You feed hydrogen gas into one side of the cell,
Got it.
and then oxygen, usually just from the air around us, goes into the other side. Inside, they don't burn. Instead, they react chemically, electrochemically.
No combustion.
No combustion at all. And the result is, well, you get electricity, pure water vapor, and a bit of heat. That's it.
The lack of burning, that's what really strikes me. It's fundamentally different from a car engine, isn't it?
Totally different. Your typical engine works by, controlled explosions, burning fuel. Fuel cells just have this quiet electrochemical reaction.
So no nasty emissions.
Precisely. No co-heroes, no nitrogen oxides, none of that stuff we get from burning fossil fuels.
Yeah.
That clean operation, that's a huge part of the excitement.
And I heard they're also very efficient and quiet.
That's right. Compared to the rumble and inefficiency of internal combustion, fuel cells are smooth operators, very quiet.
Which explains why you might see them in, say, hospitals.
Exactly. Imagine needing backup power in a hospital. You want reliable electricity, but you don't want the roar of a diesel generator disrupting everything. Fuel cells fit that bill perfectly.
Okay, this is probably the big question on people's minds.
Yeah.
How are they different from batteries? The kind in EVs.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction.
Uh-huh.
They both give you electricity, sure, but how they do it is different.
Right.
Batteries are like energy storage tanks. You fill them up with chemical energy, they release it as electricity, then you have to plug them in again to recharge.
Okay, the recharge cycle.
Whereas fuel cells, they're more like generators. They keep making electricity as long as you keep supplying them with hydrogen.
So continuous power if you have the fuel.
Exactly. You could almost think of them as engines that don't really wear out as long as the hydrogen keeps flowing.
So this isn't just theory anymore. It's not stuck in the lab. Where are we actually seeing these things being used today?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely moving into the real world. Take cars, for instance. Hydrogen-powered vehicles.
Like which ones?
Well, there are models like the Toyota Mirai, the Hyundai Nexo. They're out there on the roads.
And what's the driving experience like? Similar to an EV?
Very similar, actually. That smooth, quiet acceleration people like about EVs. But here's the kicker.
Go on.
Refueling. It's incredibly fast.
Faster than charging an EV battery.
Much faster. You're talking 3 to 5 minutes to fill a hydrogen tank, about the same time it takes to fill up a regular gasoline car.
Wow, okay. That addresses the whole range anxiety and charging time issue head on.
It really does. It's a major selling point for people who need that quick turnaround or do longer journeys. Makes hydrogen a really interesting alternative.
That rapid refueling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how that would appeal to a lot of people.
Definitely. And it's not just personal cars. Think public transport.
Buses, trains.
Buses, certainly. Cities in places like Germany, South Korea, China, they already have fleets of hydrogen buses running.
Really? Even India's trying it out, right?
Yep, pilot programs are underway in India too. And the benefits for cities are pretty obvious.
Less pollution, I assume.
Absolutely. Zero tailpipe emissions means cleaner air, which is huge for urban areas. Plus, they're much quieter than diesel buses. It all helps make cities more livable.
So that picture you painted at the start, emission-free cities, it's starting to take shape piece by piece.
It is. slowly but surely.
Is it just about moving people around, though? Or are there other uses? I think I read something about industrial applications.
You're right. Industry is another big area. Hydrogen fuel cells are proving pretty versatile.
Like what kind of things?
You see them powering forklifts in big warehouses,
Huh.
handling heavy equipment in ports.
Ah, okay. Heavy-duty stuff.
Exactly. And also providing super reliable backup power for critical places like data centers. Even powering things in remote, off-grid locations.
And looking even bigger, what about planes and ships? Is that feasible?
Well, the ambition is definitely there. It's particularly exciting, actually. Airbus, for example.
The aircraft manufacturer.
Yeah. They've set this really ambitious target: hydrogen-powered commercial flights by 2035.
2035? That's soon. Wow.
It's bold, for sure. And at the same time, there's a lot of work going into hydrogen-fueled ships, especially cargo ships, maybe starting with inland waterways, where setting up refueling might be a bit easier initially.
Cleaning up those big transport sectors would make a massive difference. That 2035 goal for planes, though. What are the big hurdles there, technologically, logistically?
Oh, huge hurdles. Storing enough hydrogen safely and lightly on an aircraft is a major challenge. Then there's the whole infrastructure for producing and supplying hydrogen at airports. It's a massive undertaking.
Right. Okay, so earlier you mentioned something important. Hydrogen isn't the actual energy source. It has to be made.
Correct.
And this is where we get into those color names, gray, blue, green. Can you break those down for us?
Absolutely. It's really crucial because how the hydrogen is made massively impacts whether it's actually clean or not. Hence the color nicknames.
Okay, let's start with gray. That's the most common one I hear.
It is, by far. Over 95% of the hydrogen produced today is gray hydrogen.
How's it made?
It's made from natural gas, using a process called steam methane reforming. Basically, you react natural gas with steam at high temperatures.
Okay.
It effectively strips the hydrogen out of the methane.
But,
and this is the big but,
it releases CO2?
exactly, it releases significant amounts of carbon dioxide as a byproduct. So even if the fuel cell using the hydrogen is clean, the production of gray hydrogen isn't environmentally friendly at all.
Gotcha. So then there's blue hydrogen. Also starts with natural gas.
Right. Blue hydrogen uses the same steam methane reforming process, starting with natural gas.
Yeah.
But it adds an extra step:
Which is?
carbon capture. The CO2 that's released during production is captured instead of being vented into the atmosphere.
And what happens to the captured CO2?
Usually it's stored often deep underground in geological formations. This is called carbon capture and storage, or CCS.
So it's cleaner than gray.
The idea is to make it much lower emission than gray, yes, but there are ongoing debates about how effective and truly leak-proof long-term CO2 storage is, and the capture process itself uses energy.
Okay, not perfect, but better than gray. Which brings us to green hydrogen, the gold standard.
That's the one everyone's really aiming for. Green hydrogen is the ideal.
How is that one made?
It's made using electrolysis. You take water, good old HRO, and you split it into hydrogen and oxygen using electricity.
Okay, splitting water, but where does the electricity come from?
That's the key. For it to be green hydrogen, the electricity used for electrolysis must come from renewable sources.
Like solar, wind.
Exactly. Solar power, wind power. If you use clean electricity to split water, then the entire process from start to finish is essentially emissions-free.
That sounds fantastic. What's the catch?
The catch, currently, is cost and energy. Producing green hydrogen via electrolysis is quite a bit more expensive right now than making gray hydrogen. And it takes a lot of renewable electricity.
Right, but those costs are expected to come down with cheaper renewables and better tech.
That's the hope, and the trend is definitely heading that way. Research into better electrolyzers plus falling solar and wind costs should make green hydrogen much more competitive over time.
You mentioned global production is already huge, over 90 million tons a year. Mostly gray, you said.
That's right, a massive amount, and mostly the CO2 emitting kind.
So what's driving this huge demand, and why the big push for green hydrogen now, despite the costs?
Several really strong drivers. First up is energy security.
How so?
Well, think about countries like India, Japan, most of Europe. They import a lot of oil and gas, right?
Yeah, heavily reliant.
Producing green hydrogen domestically, using their own renewable resources, offers a way to become less dependent on those volatile global fossil fuel markets. It's about energy independence.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Controlling your own energy supply. What else?
Second, and this is a really big one, decarbonization, especially for sectors that are hard to clean up otherwise.
Which sectors are we talking about?
Think heavy industry, steelmaking, cement production, chemicals.
Mm.
These use immense amounts of energy and often rely on processes that are really difficult to electrify directly with batteries.
Right, you can't just plug in a blast furnace.
Pretty much. Green hydrogen can provide a clean fuel source or even a clean feedstock for these industries. It offers a pathway to decarbonize parts of the economy where other solutions struggle.
So it fills a specific gap where batteries or direct electricity might not work as well.
Precisely. Third point, energy storage, particularly long-duration storage.
Longer than batteries can manage.
Yes. Batteries are great for short-term storage, maybe hours or a day, but hydrogen can store massive amounts of energy for weeks, even months.
How does that help?
It's crucial for balancing a grid that relies heavily on renewables like solar and wind, which are intermittent.
Right, the sun doesn't always shine, wind doesn't always blow.
Exactly. You can use excess renewable power during sunny or windy periods to make green hydrogen,
Hmm.
store it, and then convert it back to electricity using fuel cells when demand is high or renewable generation is low.
That long duration storage, yeah, that sounds incredibly valuable for a stable, renewable grid.
It really is. And finally, there's export potential.
Exporting hydrogen.
Green hydrogen, yeah. Countries blessed with abundant sunshine or wind, think Australia, Chile, maybe parts of India, are looking at becoming major exporters of green hydrogen in the future. It could be a significant new green economy.
Fascinating. So we need the production, but we also need the infrastructure to move and use it, right? I heard about something called hydrogen valleys.
Yes, building the infrastructure is absolutely essential, and it's a huge task. Hydrogen valleys, particularly in Europe, are one approach.
What are they exactly?
They're basically concentrated hubs, localized ecosystems, where you try to bring together hydrogen production, transport, storage, and the actual end users,
Mm.
all within a specific geographic area.
Like mini hydrogen economies.
Kind of. They act as large-scale pilot projects, helping to figure out the practicalities and economics before rolling things out more widely. Learn by doing, essentially.
And what about India's plans on the infrastructure front? You mentioned their mission earlier.
Right, India's national green hydrogen mission is very ambitious. The goal is 5 million metric tons of green hydrogen production capacity per year by 2030.
That's a lot.
It is, and it's expected to drive huge investment figures like 8 lakh crores or around 100 billion US dollars are mentioned, plus significant job creation, potentially over 6 lakh jobs.
Wow. Are major companies getting involved?
Yes, big players like Reliance, Adani, L&T, Indian Oil, they're all making moves, investing in green hydrogen production facilities and related infrastructure. There's serious corporate backing.
Okay, so there's clearly a lot of momentum, investment, government support. But you mentioned hurdles earlier. Let's circle back to those challenges. Cost was a big one.
Definitely still the biggest barrier, probably. Green hydrogen, made via electrolysis, is currently, what, 3 to 5 times more expensive than gray hydrogen from natural gas?
That's a significant gap.
It is, until renewable electricity gets even cheaper and the electrolyzer technology improves and scales up to bring down manufacturing costs, green hydrogen will struggle to compete purely on price in many areas.
Makes sense. And then infrastructure again. Even if you make the hydrogen, people need to access it. Refueling stations.
Exactly. Think about driving a hydrogen car today. Where would you fill it up?
Probably nowhere near me.
Right. Globally, the network of hydrogen refueling stations is tiny compared to gas stations or even EV chargers. Building out that network requires massive investment and coordination. It's a classic chicken and egg problem.
No cars without stations, no stations without cars.
Something like that. It needs a concerted push to build the infrastructure ahead of or at least alongside the vehicles.
Storage and transport also sounded tricky, hydrogen being light and flammable.
Yeah, that presents real challenges. Hydrogen is the lightest element, so storing a useful amount means either compressing it to very high pressures or liquefying it at extremely low temperatures. Both require specialized, strong, and expensive tanks.
And moving it around?
Transporting it, whether as a compressed gas in pipelines or trucks or as a liquid, is also more complex and costly than moving gasoline or natural gas or even transmitting electricity. Safety protocols are obviously paramount too.
Okay. And the last challenge you mentioned was energy efficiency, losing energy in the conversion process.
Yes, the round-trip efficiency. Let's say you start with 100 units of renewable electricity.
Okay.
Use that for electrolysis to make hydrogen. You lose some energy there. Then you transport and store the hydrogen, maybe more losses. Then you put it in a fuel cell to get electricity back out, more energy lost in that conversion.
So how much energy do you end up with?
You might only get back 50 or 60 units of useful energy for every 100 units you started with. So a loss of maybe 40, 50%.
That sounds quite inefficient compared to just using the electricity directly.
In many cases, yes. Using renewable electricity directly, like charging a battery EV, is generally more energy efficient overall than going through the hydrogen conversion steps.
That energy loss does seem significant. Thinking about that, are there specific uses where hydrogen's other benefits, like its energy density or that fast refueling, really outweigh the efficiency issue more clearly?
That's exactly the right question. Yes, absolutely. Think about heavy-duty, long-haul trucking.
Where battery weight and charging time become big problems.
Precisely. Carrying enough batteries for a long-haul truck adds huge weight and takes hours to recharge. Hydrogen offers much longer range with less weight penalty and that quick 5–10 minute refuel. The efficiency loss might be acceptable there.
Okay, trucking makes sense. What else?
Aviation's another key one. Batteries simply don't have the energy density, the energy per kilogram needed for long-distance flights. Hydrogen, especially liquid hydrogen, is much lighter for the energy it carries.
So for planes, it might be one of the only viable non-fossil fuel options.
It's certainly a leading contender for decarbonizing long-haul aviation. Also, shipping, as we mentioned, and those heavy industries like steel and chemicals where high heat or chemical processes are involved, and of course that long-duration grid storage.
Right, so it's clear hydrogen isn't like the magic bullet solution for everything.
Definitely not. It's really important to see it as one crucial tool in a much bigger toolbox for clean energy, not a universal fix.
It works alongside other things, solar, wind, batteries.
Exactly. It complements them. It's particularly valuable in those sectors where direct electrification faces major technical or economic barriers.
So finding the right application for the right technology.
That's the key. Hydrogen shines in heavy industry, long-haul transport trucks, ships, potentially planes, and for that vital long-duration energy storage to help balance the grid.
So this whole energy transition, it's not really about hydrogen versus batteries or solar versus wind.
Not at all. That's often how it gets framed, but it's misleading. It's about building a diverse, resilient, clean energy ecosystem.
An ecosystem where different technologies play different roles.
Precisely. We need all of them working together effectively. It's about optimizing the system, using the best tool for each specific job, whether that's direct electrification, batteries, or hydrogen.
It really does feel like hydrogen fuel cells are moving beyond just being promising tech. They seem to be becoming part of actual strategy now.
Absolutely. You see it being baked into government policies, national energy strategies, and corporate investment plans all around the world now. It's part of the mainstream planning for net zero.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful, a really good deep dive into, well, the potential and the challenges of hydrogen. It's clear it could be a major player even with the hurdles.
Indeed. I think the main takeaway really is that hydrogen is almost certainly going to play a significant and probably growing role in getting the world towards net zero emissions.
Okay, so on that note, let's leave our listeners with a thought to chew on. How can all these different clean energy solutions we talked about, solar, wind, batteries, now hydrogen, how can they best work together? Not in competition, but integrated smartly to build that sustainable future we need.
And maybe think about which specific sectors really need hydrogen's unique properties the most. Where does it offer the biggest advantage in this huge global shift?
Right. It's not about picking one winner, is it? It's about understanding how all the pieces fit together in this vital effort. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.